Welcome to space, the final frontier. Very excited to be talking Star Trek Discovery. I am Christian Bladt. Very excited to be speaking with our pal, Nikki Bailey.
Hey, hey!
I actually can't figure out when the last time was that we did a show. Was it for the end of Picard?
It
Because
was the it was the end of Picard. It had to
yeah,
be.
because I was trying to remember. I'm like, wait, did Discovery happen after Picard? And I can't put it all
Yeah,
together.
me
It's
neither.
been a while. That's really
It's
what it came down to.
it's been too long.
And this show, more than any other, more than even a cable show, boy, do I really need that reminder of what happened. Because I remember the big picture, but boy, there was a lot that I didn't remember about last
Me
season.
too. Me too. I
But
was I was
go
really
ahead.
glad for the recap as well. And because I aimed to watch the last two episodes of last season, but didn't get around to it.
Yeah, no, I get it. It's the best laid plans, as they say. But I was glad to be brought up to speed with Captain Michael Burnham, the whole crew, and boy, they can't do a season without changing the uniforms, can they, Nikki?
Not only can they not do a season without changing the uniform, but even in the middle of the show, when being transported to another ship, there's a uniform change. Did you notice that?
Yeah. So Michael wore four uniforms in this episode because there's like the action gear in the beginning, which we'll
Yep.
go through the episode as a whole. Then there's the dress uniform. Then there's the regular uniform, and then I feel like that she was wearing something different at the end. It was like a an and I'm just starting to wonder, did Star Trek get into the action figure business, and that's why we're getting so many of these?
That might explain it. That might explain it. There's too many uniforms, uh, but also I'm going to comment on her hair. Her hair also made a lot of changes in the one episode as well. So I don't know. Maybe they're going for like a fashion plate Burnham.
And maybe that's it. Let's say hello to a couple of our friends in the chat. Sam Whitfield, hello all. Craig Robinson saying evening, guys. Now, Craig is one of our regulars, but Craig, you're in the UK. And as far as I know, you're not supposed to be able to see this show at the moment because there was the news was made, I think, literally last week, just a couple days before the premiere,
Yeah.
that most of the world sees this show on Netflix. But but Paramount worked out a deal where they basically gave all this money back to Netflix, and they're like, no, we're going to keep it so that we can do a launch of Paramount Plus for around the world. And there's going to be a lot of places that won't have it anytime soon, but they're going to save it. And I don't know, that seems a little crappy. So very disappointed, but I'm glad that Craig, let's just say that Craig now lives in London, Ontario, wink, and that's why he's able to see it.
Yeah,
So
we
you're
don't
just,
we don't need to ask any questions, Craig. You
yeah,
just
yeah. Look, we do, yeah, we're not checking anybody's IDs to make sure they belong in here. That's fine. We're glad to see you, and we're excited to talk about the show. In general, I'm always excited when this show's come back. You know, the three subsequent seasons, and I think that I was reading a review of it. Just to kind of get my thoughts together, and it reflected something that I thought is that it definitely felt like Star Trek.
yeah.
It was, all of the differing stories going on were very Star Trek stories, and I had traded messages with Nikki a couple weeks ago, and I tweeted this that watching Star Trek Prodigy, which I've only seen the first like 1 hour episode, it didn't feel like Star Trek to the extent that I forgot I wasn't watching an animated Star Wars series. Like legitimately, I'm not making a joke.
Wow.
They mentioned the Federation, and I'm like, oh right, there's not going to be any Jedi's in this, are there? It felt a lot like the Bad Batch and Rebels and shows like that. So was definitely a lot of Star Trek being provided for us, and sort of the mid negotiation gone awry is probably reminiscent of the second J.J. Abrams movie. The sequence that I did like in that movie was kind of the beginning, the negotiations gone wrong. Let's just talk big picture about what this episode brought us, Nikki. What your overall thoughts were, and then we'll go into some specifics.
Yeah, I agree with you. It felt like a really Star Trek episode. There was a mission. They went on the mission. Something happened on the mission. They fixed the thing for the people, and then they were friends. And it was very Star Trekky. Um, I also I loved Tilly in this position of power, being able to handle whatever's coming at her, no doubt. And I loved Adira as this sort of almost the new Tilly with her nervousness. And I loved this episode. I really did. I was excited. I was looking forward to it coming back, and I was super psyched. And I really loved the episode.
Yeah, I'm glad you focused on that because that was a dynamic that I really enjoyed in this episode. And I will say, for people who remember from the various incarnations of this show, I was not immediately on board with then Cadet Tilly, but she definitely won me over. And I think the idea, I liked having her and Adira together because I think that Tilly really just gets where Adira's coming from. You know, the lack of confidence in oneself, also the penchant for just talking and not knowing when to
Right.
stop. I feel like that could have been from a script from season one, that you could have given those lines to Tilly. And I thought that being the idea that Tilly is now the one who has to tell somebody else to check oneself is kind of it's nice to see, that she's not all grown up, but she's growing up,
But she's grown up, and
yeah,
and the whole line about the academy feeling like 1,000 years ago but also yesterday was so perfect for Tilly, because
yeah,
she really was just a couple of weeks ago, it feels like, just a
yeah.
couple of years ago, she was still an ensign, she was still figuring it out, and now she's in charge on an away mission, and the person charged with sort of keeping everybody cool. So I'm very proud of Tilly. I feel like she's my friend, and I'm proud of her success.
Yeah, if only you could just write her a quick note and send it her
Just
way.
a note of encouragement and victory for her. She would like that, I think.
Yeah, yeah. I think that I well, and I want to kind of check in on all of our friends. Craig Robinson does chime in. Not sure if I needed the Saru stuff. I think they needed to find a way to get him in, especially because it was the premiere. And if he
Agreed.
doesn't come back for a few weeks, I think we might not see him every week. But I think if he wasn't in this one, we might start to think, okay, so that's it with Saru. And that was one of the things that I did need a reminder on. I kind of forgot that, I mean, I remembered that the burn was basically caused by, you know, uh, by a Kelpian, basically a Kelpian version of Legion, to borrow from the X-Men universe, just with that extreme power.
Yeah.
And I remembered that, but I kind of forgot that he was going back, to kind of help him out and go back to the home world. I feel like we're going to see Saru very soon. I think it took away from our main story, but he's another favorite character. So I think that's why we had to go there. Do you agree,
I
Nikki?
agree. They had to show us where Saru was and what he was up to, because the thing I was looking for coming into this was, what's it going to be like for Burnham if Saru when Saru comes back and Burnham's now captain? What's that dynamic going to be like? And also, I just missed Saru. Like, I just
Yeah.
was like, it's been all this time. I've been waiting for this crew to come back. I've missed them all, but I have missed Saru in a particular way because I like him. And so I'm glad that they did show us some of what he was going through, and what he's been doing. But I also love that they made it very clear that he wasn't going to stay, that he was going to be getting back out to the stars. So that's exciting to look forward to.
Yeah, another comment from Craig. Did you notice that Stamets has stopped giving Burnham the stink eye after what happened in the finale? They made it very clear. They mentioned a few times that it had been 5 months, and I think that Stamets is definitely very emotional. There was a great line of how's Adira, and everyone else,
Right.
just realizing like, oh yeah, I have to care about everyone else. So he's very emotional, and I think that's one of the things we like about him. But yeah, I think that you know she's your captain, and it's like you can carry a grudge, but you can't really give a stink eye to your captain
Right.
unless you're willing to back it up. So
I'm also excited to see what their more intimate communication is like, and if they, there might still be some stink eye there, but maybe we
yeah,
just didn't get a chance to see it because of all that was going on. So I'd be interested to see what their interpersonal relationship is like going forward.
yeah, no, and I think that if I wouldn't be surprised if there's not some residual stink eye, and I guess we'll have to see. So let's go through the episode. I referenced the the beginning, the sort of the Federation outreach portion, with these people who were not that excited to be visited by the Federation. So that obviously made for some fun, and then of course the idea that there's another life form. Burnham and Book were just kind of I don't know if maybe they were a little too adorable for Star Trek, but it was cute. Their little back and forth, like, well, she's a queen. Well, that was a pretty bad choice of turn of phrase, you know. And the idea that oh, what do you want to make us your pets? So I think that in the end, what we get from that sequence is the idea that they get the dilithium anyway, and I think he was, I don't know if he was the emperor or the president or whoever the representative, just saying like that didn't really go very well, and yet you still gave it to us. And she's like, yeah, that's just what we do. So it's a lot for them to think about, and I feel like this is what seems like a throwaway scene to start a season, but I feel like we'll see them again. What did you think of how that all played out, Nikki?
You know, I thought it was weird that Book was on a away mission with Burnham.
That's fair. Yeah.
And so, he's not officially Starfleet. I thought it was strange that he was with her. Um Aside from that, though, I feel like they had to show him as a part of the crew and their relationship a little bit, so that we would care, not that we wouldn't care later, but I feel like it was important to sort of invest some time in Book and Burnham in the beginning, so that when what happens later happens, we're more attached to him and attached to what's important to him. So I feel like it was not necessarily a throwaway, but it was fun, and I loved the effects of the butterflies and
Yeah.
the wing. I mean, it was beautiful to watch, and again, though, what I liked about it was a classic Starfleet thing, Star Trek thing, to do outreach to another planet and come bear with help, and it just harkened back to what Star Trek about Star Trek, and I like that about it.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I mean, it's definitely a construct of storytelling convenience for us as opposed to Starfleet protocol. I mean, you could have seen Burnham going by herself, or really with any number of members of the crew. I mean, I would have probably chosen someone who's not particularly humanoid looking, to just sort of
Yeah.
be representative of, if Saru were there, that would have been the perfect person, because it's like, look, we look like me, we look like him, we can look like you crazy butterfly moth people or whatever they are. And yeah, Craig chimes in that Book's ship special effects were as good as always. Yeah, I mean, he's got a really cool ship that they managed to do a lot with. And then we also get The sequence of Michael addressing the first Starfleet Academy class in, I think they said, 125 years. I think she had some very nice words, and of course was immediately followed up by a politician. Uh, and we'll have to talk a little bit more about the president, because I wasn't expecting to get so much of her in this. But what did you think about, the speech that Burnham gives, but also more about what it represented? Sort of where she came from, how her crew really is the reason why there is a Starfleet Academy, that they figured out the burn, which you remember from last season, everybody's like, yeah, we tried to figure it out, but we've spent too much time on it, so we can't anymore. What did you think, Nikki, about what it sort of represented, but also what Michael said to Starfleet?
Uh, I don't remember the particulars of her speech.
Yeah, but it's all right.
Yeah,
She always sort of speaks in the same way. She's
yeah.
trying to make you cry, but never really does.
Because and thankfully she didn't cry at all in this episode, which was nice.
Oh, yeah,
Um,
I forgot about that. See, that's something that we needed in the recap, was all the time she cried last
all the
season. Man.
times, all the crying. Um, but no, I thought it was exciting to see not only that she was the person that they invited to give this speech, but also to see the whole Discovery crew kind of watching from the balcony, um, and also kind of made me wonder, like, what have they been doing for training the whole 125 years? What have they been doing? How has Starfleet been functioning without an academy for this whole time? It made me wonder about that a little bit more too.
Yeah, I mean, because obviously, everyone in Starfleet isn't 150 years old. So they've come from somewhere. And is it just volunteer, and you
You
learn?
learn on the
It's more
job,
like more like internships or something. Where you're
right?
just apprenticing on a crew. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that does raise the question of what have they been doing. But the reopening of the academy is the opportunity for new President Rillick, who, in reading about her, I guess we're to surmise that she is half Cardassian, half human. Does that sound accurate to you? Because I just thought she was a different species that was not something that we knew. But
I only
she,
knew that half Kardashian thing because I read it somewhere.
yeah,
I
it's
don't
the
think
same
I
with
would have.
me. Yeah,
I don't think I would have gotten that from her appearance at all. So
yeah. So, I mean, and I guess that's sort of an interesting, an interesting idea. It's like TNG having a Klingon on the bridge of the Enterprise, is the idea that a Cardassian, or even a half Cardassian, would be the president of the Federation. I think that it's more symbolic, like storytelling, for us to get a sense for where
yeah.
things have gone in these 900 years, not just the 125 years since the burn. What do we think of President? I believe her name is President Rillick. And well, let me just ask more the open-ended question. What do you think of her now that we got to
You
spend so much
know,
time with her?
I was ready to dislike her.
Yeah,
But ultimately by the end of the episode I was like, she's interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing, first of all, if she, like, how much more we're going to get to see of her. But she had a lot to say, and she was very involved, and I'm really interested in I'm really looking forward to seeing if she becomes a stumbling block for Burnham, or if she
yeah.
somehow becomes Burnham's champion. But she gave Burnham a lot to think about, and I found her a likable character, like somebody that I'm interested in and would like to see more of.
Well, that dynamic was interesting because on multiple occasions, Burnham's like, you taking me out of the chair? Because if you're not, just, without saying shut up, but it's like, basically, sit down if you're not going to do that. Let me do
Right.
my job. And that sort of continued in this idea of, the importance, we always come back to the Kobayashi Maru, the importance, the title of the episode, the importance of having to deal with the unwinnable situation. and not everyone can be Jim Kirk and reprogram it so that you can cheat and win. The whole idea, and I thought that they really made the point is that you have to learn how to deal with that,
Yeah.
and she hasn't had to do that. She's sort of the psych evaluation of you're trying to save everyone, which I do think starting from that point is very important for a Starfleet captain, at least all the ones that we've seen. The idea of trying to rescue everyone, but then there does need to be the point where you're like, we're going to have to save the most number of people and not risk everyone to save one or two
One or two.
people, which
Yeah.
I think is not going to be lost on Burnham. I think that maybe she really is going to have to make that hard decision later this season. Do you feel like they're giving us some foreshadowing in that way?
I do. I think that was definitely predictive of something, some big moment. And I would not be surprised if we lost an important character this season because of that.
Yeah, I mean the losses that we have had are usually, I mean, I there have been characters that I thought, I mean, we talked about, I think it was last season, I thought we were going to lose Saru, or that maybe that was 2 years ago. But there was a season where it really seemed like that was going to be it for Saru. And the fact that it wasn't, and we've been prepared to lose people before, but we haven't.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that this being introduced in the pilot, I'm sorry, not the pilot, but the season premiere, is because this is going to be very important, maybe even multiple occasions throughout the season, and
Agreed.
it'll be interesting to see. By the way, Craig with a great comment. Did you say half Kardashian? I believe that the president is half Cardassian, half Kardashian. So I'll leave it up to the rest of you to decide if that means half Cardassian, half human, or half something else. That's for everyone else to ascertain. But yes, half Cardassian, half human. But I think that half Kardashian, half human is not an entirely inaccurate statement. Yeah, I thought that I did like Burnham kind of clawing back at her. It's like, well, first of all, even if you offered me another ship, I'm not leaving this one. I was like, I don't want your promotion anyway. So what do you think about that?
So
But
there.
yeah, but I mean, as we found with the need for Adira to have gone over to the space station, which we'll talk about in a moment, all the studying and witnessing that they have done over the last 5 months, they're still not as prepared for this world as someone who grew up in it.
Right.
As brilliant as Tilly is, Adira is much better in those situations because she deals with this program. And sorry, I did make the mistake with Adira that they deal with the idea of the programmable matter, whereas Tilly has learned about it. But I don't think that her brain's going to be starting from 1,000 years ago.
Right.
And I think that that really seems to me like Burnham can only captain the Discovery. I almost wouldn't want her in the captain's chair, and at least not yet. Maybe in another couple years, but I think she needs more time on Discovery.
I think she needs more time in this new century and on Discovery as well. The other thing is, I mean, the idea of the idea of Burnham sort of being considered for this other role, she just barely became captain in the first place.
Yeah,
She's not ready for. She ain't ready for experimental ship.
And look, Craig makes the great point. This show is not called Voyager, so keep your fancy
Exactly.
pants ship. Boy, if this show changes its name to Voyager, I might just have to tap out. I don't know.
No, you couldn't.
No, I wouldn't, but it will just remind me, The same thing would be true if they changed its name to Enterprise, which, by the way, did you hear the shout out to Captain Archer in this episode?
Captain Archer, I did. Yeah. I caught that one.
Yeah, I usually need some fancy website. I need I don't know, Vulture or somebody to find all that stuff. But that one I caught.
Yeah.
the reference to Captain Archer. Yeah, so I think where the episode ends, we're in a situation where the president is still there on the ship and it's an ongoing crisis to deal with. So we're going to get more of her. and I'll be interested in seeing. I think that now she might be a little bit more fly on the wall, because it's like, look, I've had it out with Burnham. I'm just gonna, I'm gonna see how this all plays out, and we both know where each other stand. I think the only way that this story advances is the president changing her mind about Burnham. Whether Burnham would take
Mm,
another ship or not, that's not the issue. Which, I mean, man, if they do that for season 5, it's like, what are you doing? Like, why does every year have to be so different? You know, it's like, I don't know. I think that I'm glad that the concept for this episode is at least still, I'm sorry, for this season is still really the same as last season. They're in the same time, in the same place, they're in the same universe. And it is, a linear progression time wise from last season. So yeah, I'd like them to stick around for a little while. It's there's
yeah.
been a lot of whiplash on this show. So yeah, I think that you referenced earlier we got Book in the beginning of the episode, and obviously it was introduced into this episode for the sake of tragedy. But I thought it was a nice moment with his nephew and his brother there on Quajon, and obviously only to basically they tug at your heartstrings only to just rip your heart out with the
Yeah.
destruction there. So I thought that that was really nice character stuff, but boy, that's like same episode just a few minutes later.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, but now your planet is gone. So give me your thoughts on Book's storyline in this episode, Nikki.
I felt like I knew something big was going to happen because at the very beginning when Burnham and Book were walking through and they walked past the little trill that they happened to walk past, um and they were talking about how much she enjoyed being on his home planet. I was like, something's going to happen here. I don't know what it is, but there's
Yeah,
something. And I was really interested in, when the little boy asked him how come Book doesn't wear his thing around his neck, his talisman that
yeah.
they're given at that in that ritual. Um, I think that's going to be important, and I'm looking forward to finding out what happened there. I thought it was great character building, and Book's hot, so anything that makes me fall even more in love with him, I'm going to enjoy. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's yeah, I think that they realize what they have in Book, and they're like, yeah, let's put him in more scenes. Craig raises a good question: was his planet destroyed, or did it just go missing? I think for a second we thought it went missing, but boy, that looked destroyed to me. The
It
last
did.
shot that we had at the end of the episode.
Yeah.
So I mean, I guess next week will tell us, or not even next week, Thursday. But yeah, my understanding is that his planet is destroyed because that's going to be more emotionally gut wrenching because there hadn't really been quite enough sadness and death the course of the episode. Which I think that the contrast with sort of the seemingly routine nature of the space station, the little repair mission, I think was again it's more a product of some of things that you see in the Star Trek movies, where I feel like on an episode of really any of the series, it would have been like, oh, this is difficult. Oh boy, we almost didn't get away, but everything worked out. And then this one, you felt like that's where it was going. Burnham has the huge problem, getting sucked out into space, but whatever for her at this point. She's like, yeah,
Right.
this is old hat. Like, oh yeah, oh, I don't like this. I am definitely breaking out the Mr. Bubble for when I get back, just to relax and warm up. But the captain of the space station is sort of the only character we really got to know from there, just find out enough about his life to make sure that that we can be upset about it. But I thought that the just sort of the reaction from both Adira and also from Tilly, but also Burnham just kind of sitting there at the end before the president came in and just sort of studying what happened. And you could see she's figuring out in her head, like, how could I have done this better?
Right.
How do I learn from this? And that was, I think that was probably some of the best character stuff for anybody in the whole episode. That it's like, she's not sitting there with her face buried in her pillow. She's not, in there with the lights off. It's more about like, I got to make sure that I figure out what I could have done differently, which is more, I think, to learn from it. But how do you feel it all played out? And sort of, it is a character that we only met in this episode, but I think that the repercussions are really going to be felt by at least three members of our actual regular crew.
Definitely. I feel like I definitely feel like Burnham is going to take it hard, um, but it's going to fuel her because that's what does fuel her is protecting people, saving people fuels her. Um, but I think the fact that whatever happened to the space station is also what happened to the planet is going to um, make her study what happened even more.
Yeah.
Uh, and I think that was I agree with you. Really great character building stuff. Um, we already had the revelation that she's somebody who feels like she has to save everyone she meets. Um, but I think to have it sort of re-pointed out to us in this first episode of the season is gonna it just highlights that that's gonna be something that we deal with throughout the season. So I'm looking forward to seeing that.
Yeah, no, I think that it will be interesting to see, and it's sort of like the convention for television storytelling of, this guy. It's almost like, in like a police procedural when there's like a uniform cop that you're meeting for the first time and he mentions that, yeah, my wife just had a baby. Then you're like, oh no.
He's
So
gonna
this guy
die,
starts this
right?
guy starts talking about like, yeah, that's it. As soon as we get back, I'm going home. It's been too
Yeah,
long. You're like, oh no.
that's not
This
gonna
is
happen, bro.
this is this is Danny Glover just a week away from retirement.
Right?
Come on. But and you do it does sort of beg that question that the president mentioned to Burnham, is that, yeah, you rescued all of your people. There was this guy who died. The mission's still a success, but it can't feel that way, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So I'll be, I think that we'll have to learn from that, and then I don't know. I mean, I guess these characters that they rescued, they're all still on Discovery, so are we going to deal with any of them? Are we going to see them again? I don't know that we need to, but they might not be too happy. Although that guy was quick to pull a phaser on Tilly, wasn't he?
Yeah, and it materialized out of nowhere. That was
Yeah,
really
which was kind of cool. Yeah, I don't think have we ever seen that before. I
I
mean,
don't think I don't remember seeing it. I remember
yeah,
being really kind of like, "What?"
yeah, agreed.
Also, and this is what I was referring to earlier with the costume changes. When Adira and Tilly beamed over to the station, they
Yeah.
were wearing the new uniforms with the asymmetrical hemline around the top. And then when they got to the station, they were dressed in this black armor. So
Oh, okay.
I'm like, well, maybe the transporter adds armor to you now. Like maybe that's what happens.
I mean, honestly, I don't feel like it would be that hard. Look, Jordy or Scotty could have programmed the transporter to add, in certain situations when you're going to rematerialize, yeah, put them in, a spacesuit or some kind of armor or something. But yeah, it's not something we've seen before. But I think
Yeah,
logically, and we know how important logic is to Star Trek, I think it would actually make a lot of sense if if it's not a continuity error or anything on that sense. It's just like, yeah, no, they got transported over, and then it was like, yeah, this looks like it could be a little dicey. Let's get. Yeah, I didn't really think about it. I just really was distracted by how many different uniforms. Everybody's
Burnham
got to
made.
wear the,
Yeah,
yeah, Burnham made, but even Tilly had a dress uniform on at one point.
that's true. That's
So
true. Yeah.
so it's Yeah, well, Craig makes the point. Maybe they
There you
just plug
go.
the replicator into the transporter. I mean, you know what? When you put it that way, it just seems so easy, you know?
Voila.
Like, just, yeah. So I think that, each of the different parts of this episode were interesting. We got good character stuff from a lot of characters, and including Saru. I mean, it was really just, it has to get us to a place where where he's ready to come back. And I feel like that's where he needs to be. And then maybe he doesn't show up next week because I don't quite know how he gets to where they are. But this is gonna be pretty rough for Book, I think, dealing with
Yeah.
this, and it'll be interesting to see, because I think when he left, I thought like, all right, well, he'll come back later in the season. I didn't know that we were going to go home with him and then have him basically rush back to Discovery so quickly. So I think that that's the big question, and I think you're right, that you're right, Nikki, that in terms of whatever happened to the space station also got Quajon, but what is it? That is the
Right.
question.
Right.
Is it a naturally occurring phenomena, or is it an attack of some kind?
A new weapon of some kind. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm also really interested in how Book going through the destruction of his planet is going to affect Burnham as captain. Like, since we
yeah,
know she's already an emotional person, how is that going to impact her? And then will she have to be checked on that? Like, Burnham's not officially a part of the crew. Not Burnham. Book is not officially a part of the crew.
yeah.
Um, will she need to be checked on how she responds to that? That'll be interesting to see too.
Yeah, I think and Sam Whitfield in the chat with a very basic question: is Discovery a prequel to Star Trek? Well, it started out as a prequel to the original series, and you had to follow along. But now they're, let's see, it's 1,000 years from that. No, it's 900 years from that point. So we're like 700 years after Star Trek Picard, I think, because that is the
Right.
furthest point in history up until this jump. So, yeah, we are covering some ground in the very distant future with this show. But
It started
I
off as a pre-trek, and now it's a post-trek show. It's
yeah,
happening far in the future beyond anything we've ever seen, any other show we've ever seen.
yeah, no, exactly. I mean, they didn't just go like, it wasn't like how what I think Next Generation was like 79 years or 80 years or something. It wasn't even 100 years, and then this is like, yeah, we're gonna really amp it up a little bit, and we'll really go take a look. So what are we hoping to see more of this season? We got little tastes of a lot of our characters. We didn't get a lot from Dr. Culber, but we got to see Stamets and Adira. They've sort of become kind of a family unit. We got a little bit of Gray, but really just the one scene. So, who are we hoping to see more of in the weeks ahead, Nikki?
I am hoping to see more of Adira and Gray. The whole idea of Gray getting a body
Yeah,
is really interesting, and how they. I don't know how that's going to happen. Um, that's really interesting. Uh, I'm also very much looking forward to Saru coming back, and I really hope that we get to have more time with some of the characters that we've gotten little glimpses of, but haven't really gotten into the meat of them yet, like Owo and God, I suck at all their names, because you know why I don't know their names, because we haven't seen them
we
enough.
don't get enough of them. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's there was some good banter back and forth, where I feel like it's very quick, but you get to see some of the bridge members kind of joking with each other about how good they are at their jobs and that sort of a thing.
right,
But yeah, I think that we did get some over the last couple seasons. Usually we only get like one where they pick somebody that's sort of a minor character, but then a lot of times it's been to get rid of that character,
right, right.
So I would like to get to see more from. I agree with you. I mean, uh, there's characters who have 3 or 4 lines in every episode, and then that's kind of all we ever see of them, you know. So I would hope that we get more of them, and I don't know how many episodes this season is. I always assume it's 13, but then there are those years where it's been like 17. So I don't actually know. I'd have to look it up. But yeah, Craig makes a good point. Reese being in the captain's chair was interesting, and all the helm banter was good. Yeah, that's definitely
Yeah.
it's definitely noticeable, and I think it's when you can't devote a lot of time to some of these other characters, make the time that they do have count. It's like, yes, it's advancing the story, but we're getting to learn more about them. And here's a hope from Craig. Hope we get to see Book go on some sort of revenge arc as he turns rogue. Well, that's going to have to be a matter
Ooh.
of like, why did his planet get destroyed? Who did it? And
Yeah.
but yeah, if somebody did something intentionally, I can see that, and I think Grudge will live up to Grudge's name if that's the case.
Yeah. And I think that begs that really speaks to what I was saying about how Book's reaction to his planet getting destroyed will impact Burnham, because if he does go on some whole revenge arc, then I like that idea, Craig. That's good. I hope so. Now I hope that it's a weapon, and I hope there's a revenge plot line.
Yeah, yeah, I hope
Thanks,
so
Craig.
too. Yeah, thanks, Craig. You've given us something to hope for, along the way. And it's interesting because when you think about Burnham, obviously as our main character, we do get so much focus. But you think about where she was, in the pilot. I mean, she's basically at the end of the first hour of this series. She, starts a mutiny,
Yeah.
and where she goes from there. The fact that she's even captain now, uh, you know, 900 years in the future is
900 years is a lot of time to forgive.
yeah, well, especially when the record books get erased from everything that references you, you know, it makes it a lot easier. So, I mean, I think that I'm sure we're going to continue to explore. Watching her moments with Book, you're thinking about, just some of the well, really just the one other relationship she had on the show, and it being, spectacularly disastrous,
Yeah.
you know. So it was good to see her happy because again, we don't want to see her crying, but also, and then I did think after the episode was over, and I remember very clearly that they wrote her out, but I missed Michelle Yeoh. It would have been nice to see her. But you can you can see her on Disney Plus in Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings if you miss her. So she's in that. But and maybe one day we'll get that Section 31 show. But a little birdie from somewhere in space told me that we should not hold our breath for that show. So
Wow, really?
yeah, unfortunately. But
Bummer.
I hope we get it at some point. There's still a lot of time. And look, if you're putting Paramount Plus around the world, you're gonna probably want to put as much Star Trek on there as possible. We already know
Agreed.
we're gonna have 3 live action shows and a couple of animated ones. So let's see what else they might be able to do. So I'd like to see that. Yeah, I think that when Saru's back and in the role that we are accustomed to having him, I think that'll be great. That's a dynamic that I think was a little bit missing from this episode. And yeah, like you said earlier, Nikki, the idea that I think he's going to be okay with not being captain because he's the one who thought that she should be. But how is that in practicality? How is he going to be able to handle it, in a crisis on the bridge,
Yeah,
So,
and we had the president in this episode to be the voice of, what Saru would ordinarily be the one telling Burnham, maybe you should do this, maybe you should try that. I think it'll be nice to see Saru back in position as the one who reminds her of what the rules are, and what her duty is. So it'll be interesting to see.
yeah, no, I agree. And I, for one, am looking forward to it. You all may have noticed that we did this show on Monday. And Craig, it won't enter into the way that you think, but this Thursday here in the U.S. Is Thanksgiving. So boy, was it going to be really tough for me to be able to do a show that day. I'm not going to speak for Nikki one way or the other, but I just know for me it was going to be very hard at any point over that weekend. So these first couple shows we're going to do, our show on Monday. We'll be back next Monday at 3 o'clock talking about episode 2, and that will be for episode 2 will be premiering on Thursday. Everything I see makes me think that it'll just be there. They don't care that it's Thanksgiving. It's a streaming show. Just watch it whenever you want.
Watch it when you can.
But up in Canada where Craig is, wink. They already had Thanksgiving, so it's just going to be a Thursday up there. But you'll have to wait for us for next Monday, and then I believe after that we'll try and move it to Thursday. But then I started thinking about Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve, and then I'm like, oh boy. So
Yeah,
we'll just take it a couple shows at a time, and we'll go from there.
we'll work it out.
But Nikki, I'm so excited that we got this chance to talk about Trek again, and that we get to do it again next week. Until
Me
then,
too.
if people want to keep in touch with you, how do they do that?
You can find me at nikkibaileycomedy.com and on all the social medias at nikkibailey_.
And you can find me at Christian DMZ on Twitter and Instagram. Please subscribe to the Blackcast YouTube channel, BLADTCAST. You'll see this show. You'll see our political show, Biden Time. You'll see our Marvel Movie Talk show, which tomorrow afternoon we'll be doing a special on Hulu's Hit Monkey, the show that I don't know that any of us who are familiar with Marvel knew we needed. But I'm almost done with the first season. It actually is a lot of fun. It's Jason Sudeikis as one of the voices, not as the voice of the monkey. Spoiler alert. So you can binge that and talk to us about that. And then on Wednesdays, we'll be covering Hawkeye, which premieres this week on Disney+. So subscribe and you'll get all those shows, and you'll see us next Monday. But until then, as always, we wish you a fond live long and prosper.